I recently got a craving to play a game I adored growing up, The Godfather on PlayStation 2. I had this overwhelming urge to be thrown back into a world of mobsters, rackets, Tommy guns, and that sorely missed seedy underworld of a 1930s Mafia-riddled Chicago. That game still holds a special place in my heart, not only because I love the movies and the genre it's in, but the game did a genuinely great job at merging so many difficult and different aspects at once, from overlapping a custom character with the story of the Corleones and the first Godfather film, to the Black Hand mechanics which saw you take over rackets, and eventually the city. It was a game that over-delivered and had no right being as good as it was. I suspect by finding your way to this review, you have a similar craving to be thrown back into this world, and for me, the world of Mafia was a completely new one. Despite it being a remake of the 2002 classic, I have never played Mafia 1, much like yourself, I'm assuming. So let's answer the question, should you buy Mafia? You'll be happy to know that after I rolled credits on the definitive edition of Mafia, I sat with a sense of contentment and fulfillment. I went into Mafia looking to scratch a very particular itch, and like The Godfather, it over-delivered on all of my expectations. I wanted to be part of a world that feels criminally underused in the AAA market, and Mafia delivered on this time after time after time, from its story, to its environment, to its world building, and its characters. It's all here. Mafia takes place in the fictional city of Lost Haven, or Heaven, I'm not quite sure. It's a city that hits all of the markers of a world you're looking for. A city separated not only by districts, but culture and class. You'll find different people and cars and houses in downtown and Oakwood than you would in Little Italy and the workers' quarters. It's a world I found myself in awe at almost every single step of the way, from just a casual drive listening to the radio to full-blown car chases and shootouts throughout Lost Haven. It is the perfect backdrop for the nearly 20 chapters you will find yourself working through. Despite Mafia's beauty and visual variety in its world design, it's a world that you ultimately move through than move around. Yes, it is an open world and you can absolutely explore the city whenever you want to, and you will absolutely do that at times, I promise. This is an incredibly realized world, but Mafia seems determined on pushing you from one chapter to the next. The main menu literally separates the game into story and free roam. There's even an option to skip all non-required driving sections altogether. In the end, I can't blame Hangar 13 for doing this. While the world is beautifully both technically and artistically realized, the end game of Mafia is quite the dead stop. Apart from a few side missions and collectibles for the Platinum Trophy, you wouldn't be missing much if you just stopped playing when you rolled credits. I would say don't let this stop you. Yes, the world of Lost Haven gets used as a bit of a glorified backdrop, but Mafia being a 2002 remake manages to do what some games can't even do in 2022. Yes, it's 20 chapters, but each chapter has a distinctly different ask of you and puts you in so many different environments and scenarios that all flow together seamlessly. No mission felt the same for me, no hour in this world felt repetitive. It uses the world of Lost Haven to usher you from chapter to chapter without ever really missing a beat. Not once in my 20 hours with the game did I feel like Mafia overstayed its welcome, which games can all too often do these days. From sewers to prisons to boats out at sea, racetracks, banks, brothels, and everything in between, this game somehow manages to deliver on every single note, without feeling like a game from 2002. Do I wish it used its open world to more effect? Absolutely. It's a game world I want to dive right back into. It's why I'm one trophy away from that platinum, but for what Mafia does, it does really, really well. So what about those 20 chapters then? Now, without spoiling anything major, the story of Mafia is one that will offer you all the tropes you're looking for. The Solari family finds its enemy in the Morello family, there's assassinations, rigged gambling, and some good old-fashioned shootouts and chases with the police. It's all here, and the spectacle always manages to follow and keep up. The thing that stuck out to me, however, was Mafia at times gets dangerously close to telling a gripping story about the Great Depression and how post-war men in Lost Haven were driven to a life of crime out of desperation more than any statement or judgment on their character. The game really leans into this at times, even going as far as having certain characters show a sense of regret or questioning the very world they take part in. But as soon as it gets there, it pulls right back. It gets back to the more tropey version of events, understandably, given that the story it eventually does tell, but if this game was written in 2022, I feel like we would get a much, much deeper narrative. The story you are given isn't totally cliche either. The story is told to you retroactively with Tommy explaining his life of crime to a detective, how he went from broke, single cabbie to a married, high-ranking gangster. There was definitely room for deeper twists to happen here, but each chapter ending leaves you more curious as to how Tommy's story comes full circle. Especially if you're willing to suspend your disbelief a little bit. You go from one convenient car ride to sitting in a room with the Don in like 5 minutes, but the story itself is set over what feels like 15 years, and the epilogue takes you far into the 1940s and I think maybe 50s. It's a story that I feel some people might feel like is forgettable, but for me, I really enjoyed being in this world. Okay, so the world building is there, the environment looks great, and technically it's brilliant. The narrative is exactly the Mafia story you're looking for right now in 2022, but how does it feel to play? While Mafia might not look its age right now, the gameplay certainly feels it. Character movement feels really sluggish, really heavy at first, and gunplay takes a little getting used to, even for a veteran gamer like myself. Basic controls feel really out of place, things like triangle for vaulting, a sloppy UI and user experience for the weapon wheel, and taking cover feels like you may as well not even do it. I actually found myself using the third person kind of camera peeks more often than using the ducking for cover and all that. It feels really, really janky. It doesn't ruin the experience by any means, and it certainly doesn't rip you out of the game, but it's something you will notice from time to time. So what could Mafia do better? Well, a bunch of things. I'd much rather play online in the world of Lost Haven than Los Santos. I love some of these things that I saw in Godfather 1 and 2 in 2009 with taking, operating, and protecting rackets. I'd love to grow my own family, and better yet, with live service, I could make a family with friends, rival real people, but you have to pinch yourself and remember, this is a game from 2002. And at the end of the day, what it does is scratch that itch and put you in the world of the Mafia for only a brief amount of time. I don't think there is a better place to start than Mafia Definitive Edition.